Hey guys, welcome back to the Between Takes podcast. This week we have a very special guest. We have Olivia Sui, who is incredibly talented, so funny, is one of the leads of Smosh on YouTube, which is a massive comedy channel, and she has an amazing story.
Be sure to like and subscribe on the Himalaya app or wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe on the YouTube channel, which is Between Takes Podcast.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Between Takes podcast. Today we have a very special guest. We have Olivia Sui, who is also my roommate's girlfriend. And
also half your roommate too, because I'm always there.
She's here a lot. So she also lived here for a period of time, so she's essentially another roommate to me. And
I'm your wife.
She's my wife. And other than that, she's exceptionally funny and talented and just so fun to be around. So Olivia, thank you for coming on our podcast.
Thank you. That's so nice. That's so nice of you to say that.
It's a lighthearted podcast, you know?
Yeah.
This episode is probably going to be so much better than the one we did with Sam, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's hard to beat Sam in anything because he is so funny. He's honestly just funnier than me, and good looking, and just better at everything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's like necessarily true, just from an outside perspective.
Yeah, I don't find him funny at all.
Really?
Oh no, he's honestly probably one of the funniest people I know on earth. Honestly.
So funny. Yeah.
The best. Yeah, don't fuck it up.
You know how there's like the Scoville.
Yeah, right. For heat, yeah.
Yeah, for heat. I wish we had that for like funniness. So I can.
Yeah, he'd be up there. He'd be in the 100,000, whatever.
I'm trying to go like, yeah, okay. I'm gonna try really hard to make it to and Sam does.
I love y'all's dynamic. It's amazing. It's really funny to see you guys like operate together. It's great.
Thank you so much.
I feel like most of the time there's not enough space in a relationship for two like very funny people. So when you see that work, I think it's really nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like our relationship is a big improv class. You know, always.
But that's so clutch. That's so good. That's really awesome.
Yeah, I know that if I say a stupid joke, he will be there to, lift me back up.
or play on that and say an even stupider joke.
Right.
Yeah, like it's always who's gonna say the more stupid thing.
Right.
And yeah, it's great. It's great. I think we should just start charging people to watch us.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah. I've had a free front row seat for.
Well, also Graham is back and he's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Graham
and I have very similar humor.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, then I know what you like. I don't know.
Yeah, you do. It's very similar.
Yeah, I don't know if we can talk like that.
No, we can't. We can't on this podcast. No. My mother listens to this.
Oh, okay, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Graham's our other roommate, just for people listening. So there's a lot.
Graham, and Sam.
And almost Hart.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank God it wasn't.
Well, you would have had to do a name change. It would have to be like Ham.
Like Pam.
Yeah, something like that.
Pam.
What's up? Why am I here on this podcast?
What do you mean?
I'm not sure.
Why am I here?
What do you mean?
Have you ever acted, Olivia?
No, never. This is the most acting I've done. Acting like I know what's happening right now.
Come on. You've been acting for a really long time.
This episode is just garbage.
What do you mean?
I'm kidding. It's been a long day and all I've had today is coffee, and some seaweed.
Okay. Let's get into it. So Liv,
right.
tell us what brought you to LA, how your career started. and what that sort of journey was like for you.
Okay. This is what happened. My parents had me, and they lived in China, and they were like, oh, we gotta give our kids a better future. Well, actually, not really. That's how most immigrant stories go. Well, my parents were like, oh, there's like a lot of money to be made in America. So let's go to America. And they brought me, I was 2 years old. And my mom just immediately put me in every extracurricular activity ever. Like I was in oil painting class. I was in golf lessons. I was in ballet class. I was in like storybook writing class. I was in acting class. And out of all those classes, my favorite ones were dancing and acting. And I didn't really think too much of it because I was really, really young. And the reason why my mom put me in acting class was so I could stop being such a shy little person. I was so shy, like I hated talking. I remember my first day of ballet class, I just stood in the corner in the back because I just like I was so shy. And my mom was like, okay, well, maybe like acting class will help you because we heard this radio ad for this acting school in LA. And then I started going and I just loved it so much. And I had to decide what I was going to do after high school. So it was either dance or because this university in LA was like, hey, you don't have the grades to be in our school, but you can dance for us. And I was like, man, do I really want to be a professional dancer? And I was like, nah, I'll just stick to acting and go to community college and see where that goes. And so somehow in my second year of community college, I was in this acting class and my friends in my acting class were like, hey, there's this app called Vine. Like you should get on it. It's 6 seconds. Like you can just be silly and do whatever. And during that time, I started going to UCB as well, which is the Upright Citizens Brigade. And it's a really awesome improv school. So then through that, I never knew I liked comedy like that much until I started going to improv shows and shooting Vine videos. And I was like, wow, like I really, really love comedy. And so from then on, I kind of got recognized through the app. And there's this YouTube channel that they were looking for an ensemble, like an SNL ensemble, but on YouTube. And so I don't know if you guys know who Jason Nash is, but he kind of was like, hey, I'm going to give your contact to this casting director and you should just like try it out. I'm like, I'm not sure. I don't really watch YouTube. I don't really know what it is. And then I remember I went to the audition. I was about to leave because I was like, it was too long. I was waiting there an hour and I was like, you know what? I don't even know what I'm doing here. I'm just going to like leave. And the casting director comes out and she was like, hey, like, where are you going? I'm like, oh, nowhere. And she's like, come, like, let's do this. And so I was like, okay. And she's like, do you have 3 characters prepared? And honestly, this is probably the worst thing ever. I was not prepared. I didn't have 3 characters, but then I just like came up with it on the spot. And they hired me after like a few more auditions and they're like, oh, like join us. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And cut to 5-6 years later. Now I'm here. Crazy. Sorry, didn't even give you guys any room to talk, but
no, this is all about you. It's not about us.
But yeah, that's how it went. It's so crazy talking about it like in the span of like 2 seconds, but this happened in like the span of a decade, you know?
Yeah, and it feels like when you're going through it, it feels like forever. It takes so long, and it feels like things may never.
I know.
Get there. But then when you look back on it, it feels like it's like that.
Yeah, I so crazy. This is so cliche, but it's so crazy where life takes you when you just kind of have an open mind. In Asian American culture, like being an actor or anyone, creative, it's kind of rare, So my parents had no idea anything about like Hollywood or the entertainment industry. They were just like, if you want to do it, just, do it the best you can. and always say yes to opportunities and work really hard. So I guess with that type of mentality, it just brought me to different, places in my life. But I would have to say, like, shooting 6-second vines and all that isn't like what we do for Smosh. Like, Smosh really taught me how to write a full sketch, how to come up with characters. And it was like a really, really great, I feel like that was my college experience, like learning so much. On our first day of work, they gave us a laptop and they were like, okay, just write. And I'm like, I don't know. I've never written in my life. Like, what's final draft? And they're like, just do research, watch some sketch videos, and then come up with something. I'm like, dude, I have nothing. I remember my first 6 months working there, I really struggled because I've never been in a writer's room. And I remember we'd have like these 3-hour long writer's rooms, and I would not say a word for like 3 hours. It like brought me back to when I was like in ballet class when I was 5 years old, like in the corner, so shy, like afraid to speak up. But yeah, it was like a big learning curve for me to come up with jokes really easily and like think of ideas and riff off of other people. But yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like greatness comes when you're not comfortable. And in all those situations, you clearly were uncomfortable and you 100% made something great out of it. And you've learned so much through that.
Yeah, I was at a level 100 of uncomfortable. I just was like, I was like, I'm going to get fired. Like, I have no jokes. What is a joke? I'm like, nothing prepared me for this. Like, going to UCB 101, like, did not help me at all for this. And yeah, and I was really intimidated. And even though our audience is catered to younger, like, I was still like, I don't think I'm confident enough to do this. However, in the middle of my 4 years at Smosh, they enrolled us in groundlings classes. So we were able to do private lessons for a couple of months, like on the weekends for like 8 hours. Like, we would just dedicate the weekends for sketch writing, character building, and all of that. And that really helped me. But yeah. And you want to know something really funny? We used to shoot all our sketches in Sacramento every other week. I did that for 3 years. I hated it so much. Like, I don't know if you guys like know this feeling, but when you spend so much time with your colleagues, you get really sick of them. Like, I remember we spent about like 30 days. We didn't have a day off, like 30 days with each other. And we wanted to kill each other.
Yeah, shooting this movie that I'm doing right now where we can't go anywhere. We have to like be sort of, it's like the bubble almost. Like, right. We can't go in any stores. We can't go in any restaurants. And it's just essentially seeing the same people for 30 days. It's the same thing where it's like we don't see anyone else, just the cast and crew. And it's so different. I'm not used to that. So I'm getting a taste of that now, which has just been so odd.
Yeah. Before I not openly talk about this, but it was a really, really rough, like 2-3 years, because they were working us like crazy. Especially when we had the groundlings training classes on the weekends. Like, there was nothing, I couldn't do other things. Like, I remember I would have to try and make it work to somehow fit in pilot season or go on auditions. But realistically, like, I couldn't put any time or anything into my personal projects because I was so occupied doing this. And not a lot of people like know that, people on the internet work really, really hard too. And a lot of times they're like, oh, they're just vlogging, or this looks so easy, right? Because it's so easily accessible to people on their phones and whatnot. But it's a lot of hard work that goes into making internet content.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first sketch where you were like, I did it?
Yeah, I do remember. We have this we have this like series called Every Blank Ever, and it's just this formula that works really well for us. And I wrote this silly sketch called Every Starbucks Ever, like all the tropes and the things that happen at a Starbucks. And I wrote it, and it was the first video to hit like 1 million in 24 hours, like, or less than that. And now I think it's at like 30 million views. It's a lot, an insane amount of views. And that was a sketch that I was like, oh wow, like people like my stupid jokes, you know? And like, I think that kind of made me realize like, oh, I do have a funny voice in me and I can write, I guess. So yeah, but there's this also, I've written so many sketches that just never made it because it's humor that it's not catered to our audience, which is another thing that I learned is writing jokes for our audience, and things that may be really funny to me might not translate or work. There's this really funny sketch that I really, really wish we made. I don't know if I should tell you guys. I'll tell you guys and you guys can cut it out later on if you want. But it's about a bunch of ISIS terrorists that they come to America for the very first time, and they're about to do some crazy, like terrible shit, right? And then they're really hungry, and they're like, what's this place? They look to the right, and it's Outback Steakhouse. They go in this Outback, and they order a bloomin' onion, and they realize how delicious this bloomin' onion is, and they call off all their like attacks because they're like just so, you know, mesmerized and obsessed with this bloomin' onion. They were like, you know what? America has given us so much. We're going to take this bloomin' onion recipe and go back home and start our own Outback Steakhouse. And that was my version of solving terrorism. Anyways, so yeah.
Oh my God.
All right, I wonder if we can leave that in or not. I mean,
I think we could.
Other ones that I can pitch you guys. They were just, okay, so the moral of the story is that I wrote like a lot of sketches that were just for my own personal, you know, entertainment. And we were so close to making it. But we never did because it was like, you know, I don't know if our audience or YouTube algorithm is ready for that. But yeah.
Are your parents funny?
No, not at all.
So did they get you, or do they think you're odd?
Well, Cameron's met my mom. She's like the sweetest lady with no sense of humor. She does not understand sarcasm at all. Like I'll be like, yeah, mom, I'll do this. And she'll be like, okay. Like she has no idea. And my dad actually still, I don't know if he knows what I do, to be honest. I think he knows that I do some type of internet thing, but I don't really know if he knows what I do. But my dad has no sense of humor. I think I got my sense of humor from my Uncle Jeff, my mom's twin brother. He is so funny and just strange and weird. And I think that's where I got my humor from.
Olivia's mom is so sweet. She is the sweetest person in the entire planet.
She's like the sweetest. Like every time I talk about her, I could cry. She's just like the most like loveliest, big-hearted.
But they've always just been very supportive of you. That's good.
Yeah. I think a lot of Asian Americans, like their parents are like, like you want to be an actor, you're gonna go ruin your life. But my mom has always been my biggest cheerleader.
That's awesome.
And, yeah. And I think I'm really fortunate that I have that family dynamic where they support everything I do. My mom
go ahead.
My mom like always said, she's like, even if you want to go scrub toilets, you're going to be the best toilet scrubber in the world. Like she was always like, if you're going to do something, you better do it to the fullest and be the best at it.
Do you still currently take classes or do any sort of improv
before
workshops?
Before the pandemic, I was doing groundlings because I loved it so much. It was also this is also a funny thing that people, I just noticed at the groundlings classes, it's actually pretty nerve-wracking, I think, because you have to like, there's a big final test for you to get to the next like level. And I remember I looked down on the carpet and there were people's fingernails, like fingernail clippings on the floor because I think they were so nervous. Like they were biting.
Oh my God, just shredding their fingers up.
Yeah, because on the finals were so nerve-wracking. I remember I would like panic for like days. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not gonna get to the next level. Like, I can't, like, it's nerve-wracking. Yeah, I try to consistently take classes. I remember during the beginning of the pandemic, I was taking acting lessons, and everyone thought I was sleeping through them.
Olivia fell asleep on her acting class on Zoom for like hours.
No, I was not. We were doing an exercise where we had to lay back down and close our eyes, and we were doing the where you close your eyes and you think about all the details of this imaginary home. Anyways, it's an yes. All right, what was it?
but you fell asleep like for 2 hours too long in the end.
No, I was not asleep. The sun was really hitting my eyes and I was squinting and it looked like I was asleep.
But Liv, going back to the Groundlings final, I remember when you were here and you were really nervous about that and you were practicing those characters. What inspires you to make a character or create a character?
It's a really good question. I think for me, because I already do it so much at Smosh, I wanted to find original characters, and I wanted to find ones that weren't derived just from my work space. I wanted to find ones that I, can really use as well. And yeah, also like sometimes I'll see people walking on the street and like I'll just like watch them for a really long time. And then I'll think of like how they talk and like how they move through life. And that's how I think of characters. But it also helps a lot when I'm writing, like envisioning how I want this person to behave in this certain situation. But yeah, I don't know. It just like pops in. Also improvising with Patrick Martin really helps. He's Sam and Cam's roommate, and sometimes we just like do these improv scenes that when no one's watching that last like 20 minutes too long, and Sam want to kill us. And there's absolutely nothing.
You guys have a great dynamic, honestly. When I saw you guys I guess it was a couple of weeks ago, you guys kept going back and forth on some improv like act offs, and it was very funny to watch.
Really? I don't even remember.
Yeah. And you both just go as far as possible, which I find hilarious.
Yeah, Graham is really great. I mean, everybody that, Cameron too. Like Cameron does this really silly voice that he does, and it's really, really funny. Or I think it's really, yeah, it's always so lighthearted and fun.
Yeah.
I think I like to surround myself with people like that.
Sure, yeah. Well, it makes you feel like you can be and you can speak freely, which there's a lot of environments that you can't, especially this day and age. So it's nice when you find that you can do that with someone or a group of people. I think it's really healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Liv, in terms of auditioning, like what's your process? Do you find it extremely nerve-wracking? Are you super confident when you go in a room? Has it always been that way? What does it feel like for you?
I think we've come to realize that I have zero confidence in a lot of things that I do. I am not a good auditioner. Like I feel like I get really in my head and I get really nervous, and I think there's always this expectation that I have to, do it the same way that maybe I've rehearsed it and felt it. I'm not a good auditioner at all. Like I feel like I actually suck at it.
I hate it. I mean, it's a totally separate process from acting.
Yeah, it's completely different, and it's like how it's just like the process is so strange to me, but it's necessary. And when you think about it, it's weird. You have to go in this room and meet these people and read off of them, and sometimes they are not acting, and sometimes they're very like deadpan, and you're trying to emote, and there's nothing being reciprocated back. So I find that challenging sometimes, but also a great exercise.
Yeah.
Not a good. Are you guys good auditioners?
I'm not.
I'm horrible.
I don't like tapes at all. I like in the room because at least I can kind of talk to them about the character and can kind of take some notes on the spot before I even do the audition, which I like doing. I like kind of, because I don't want to go in the full other direction from what you're looking for. I'd rather figure out what it is that you are trying to find and then sort of piece that into what I'm doing in the audition. And with a tape, you don't have that immediate like thing. And it's so frustrating because everything right now basically is tapes, like with how COVID is. So
Yeah.
it's now I'm navigating this area that I've never enjoyed before. Honestly, I don't like tapes. And I like being in the room because everybody's background's the same. Everybody's camera's the same. All the lighting's the same. Like it's all that stuff is not a distraction. But if my lighting or my background or whatever it is, it looks wildly different than the one before, I just feel like it's so chaotic.
Yeah.
And I feel like that it's very jarring sometimes to like, maybe I'm cropped in too close or too far. Like it's just things that I'd much rather just go in the room and do. I still don't like auditioning, like even in the room, but I do like it more than I do tapes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like you two are very charismatic as well. So it's like in the room, people can feel your charisma.
Yeah.
Likeable people.
Yeah, it's also like it can be really fun when you go in an audition too, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of missing from what we do is that
Yeah,
that element of like feeling those nerves and going in, and whether you do great or not great, it's still an experience. And with what it is now, it's just there's no connecting, and our whole business is about connecting. So
I did one of the first things that I did when I moved to LA was intern at a casting office. And I did that for, I think I forgot to mention that in the episode that we did, but it was a huge part of my like getting really comfortable in a room because I did it for about a year and I would just go like operate the camera. Like I was supposed to just follow them. And eventually like they had me reading lines with some of these people, but I would sit there. I got very close with the casting directors. And when the person would leave, I would hear what they were saying, the casting directors, and I would see what was working for them. Now, every casting director is obviously different, but these ones that I was working with were successful and were booking a lot of great things at that time. So when I would hear them talk about what it is that they liked or didn't like, I took that to heart. And it was something that helped me sort of ease into it. And it was a really nice part of my, I guess, journey into being comfortable in a room.
Yeah, I always want to know what they're talking about. You know?
I know that's like what I feel like every actor wants to know is what are they saying the moment you walk out of the door?
Yeah, and it was some of the best things and some of the worst things. Like it's really, but it all, only the worst things I feel like came from when somebody was very like rude. Like that's what blew my mind is like, I'm always going into these situations like hopeful or like, maybe nervous or something, but I've never gone in like angry at a casting director or like giving attitude to one or like making it seem like I'm better than them.
Yeah.
And the ones that came in and did that, it always blew my mind. Like I was like, what's your angle here? Like
that's crazy. Don't you want a job?
Yeah, but it was like this dynamic that they just like, it was like they were angry to be doing it. It was like a waste of time. It was usually, from my experience, ones that had like a good amount of success early on and then came in and were auditioning and felt like they didn't need to have to audition. It seemed like there was like an entitlement to like, I don't need to be here and auditioning with people. And that's where I saw that most of the time, which is unfortunate.
Can't let it get to your head.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, we're always just trying to work,
Yeah.
You can't expect it to not have to work once you've like had some success. That's how you got that work, was by being eager to get it in the first place. So, yeah.
Liv, what's the worst audition you've ever had in your entire life?
Let me think. Oh, this one was like years ago. it was terrible. I think about it sometimes because I'm like, oh, thank God I'm not there right now. This was probably the last commercial audition I ever went on. But it was like so weird. They wanted, like, I can cry on the spot, but it's also just like, this was in my head. I was like, this is so weird. Like, this was like some commercial for insurance or something. And they put a chair in the middle of this room and there was about like 7 people around you. And they were like, okay, now cry. And I was like, what? This is so like what you see in like a comedy about Hollywood. And like, and I was like, okay. And I wasn't getting there because I thought this was like, just like, what a weird thing, And then the person started describing to me like, oh, imagine like your boyfriend dying. And I'm like, okay. And it was just such a weird, odd experience. And I would totally be all in for it if it was like, there was some kind of context to this. There was no context, no story, just
to sell insurance.
Cry. And then I was like, yeah, I don't think this, I did not get that. But yeah, that was a weird experience. But I there's also like great experience. Like there's also great auditions, but yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I always feel like there's more good than bad with it.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Like I'll be driving stuck in traffic and I'll think about that day. And I'm like,
there's always like one or two that you like just think about and they just pop up in your head from time to time. And that sucked.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
What are your guys's?
I had one like that where they asked me to cry one time, just on the spot. It was after the audition. They just said, and it was for something on HBO. And I flew back, like, I was in Arkansas with my family on like the 18th or 19th or 20th of December. And they wanted to read on like the 26th or 27th, like a day or two after Christmas. And I usually just stay throughout New Year's, like with my family. And so I flew back to LA like the day after Christmas, went and did this audition and did the read. It was all great and whatever. And then after it was a producer session. It was like they really wanted me to come in, and there was 8, 9 people, and this guy wanted me to just cry. Like it had nothing to do with the audition, just wanted me to cry and see if I could do it right there, like on the spot after the fact. And I did not do well. I did not cry and I did not get it.
It was, but I remember my acting teacher always saying like crying, like you can cry. A lot of people can cry,
Yeah.
It doesn't make you a really great actor. Like it just means
No.
cry. And that's awesome. No. So I always remember that, like, just because you can do that doesn't mean that, just because you can't do that doesn't mean you're a bad actor either. So.
Right. No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's supposed to be something that's in a moment. You're not supposed to just like, I mean, if you can, all power to you, but if you can't right then, I don't think it should dictate whether you are considered a good actor or not, for sure.
And sometimes like I can do it like with a coach and we like use technique and, I can cry, but I think sometimes it's when you're in the room and there's a lot of pressure to do so, like it's challenging.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. I remember I had an audition once and I had hurt my back before. So I had to go to a like last minute chiropractor appointment before the audition to see if she could fix my back. And she went in and she like moved one of my vertebrae around in the appointment. And I got out and I was running late to the audition and my back, like I'd never been in more pain in my entire life. And I went in and I just like hobbled in there, and it was for like a superhero project, which I wanted so badly. And I just like, they wanted me to be emotional in the scene, and I just could barely focus on anything else besides the pain in my back, and I just couldn't get there, and it was just such a bummer for me.
Yeah. There's always these like factors that like come into play.
Yeah. But anyway, to better things.
Yeah, there's so much more ahead.
Yeah. I think these are the things that like make us better and stronger at what we do.
Absolutely.
Well, Liv, last thing from you. We don't want to take up too much of your time.
I'm so busy, man. I have like I hate tapes that I have to get through.
But if you could give advice for somebody that was in your position growing up, what would you say to that person, and how would you sort of guide them?
I would say to be really open-minded and take opportunities, even if they seem like they suck. That just builds your character, and it determines whether or not you really want to do that thing, and also working hard, because you can't just sit there and not be proactive about the thing that you really want. So learn everything about the thing that you really like, read about it, talk to people who also like this subject, and find a community, because you need that to uplift you and be there. You need people to be there for you through all the good times and the bad times. And I'm really fortunate that I have friends like you guys who are in the same industry that I'm in, where I can be like, hey, can you guys help me tape this? Or hey, can you run lines and stuff like that? And we discuss, work and all the other great things that come along with it. So yeah, finding your community and working really hard and being open to opportunities is what I would say to everyone out there.
That's good.
I feel like that's a good way to end it.
Right. Yep, I agree.
Liv, thank you for coming on. We've been talking about having you for weeks now, so we're really happy that you made it.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys are such great hosts.
Thank you.
It's hard. I just follow his lead.
No, stop it.
Oh, you both are really, really good to make the person feel very comfortable, and you guys have great questions. Well,
thanks, Liv. I will see you in probably really soon, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Over in Rock Beach, it needs to be. Okay.
Yeah.
Good luck, Art in Indiana.
Thank you, Olivia. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.